Hello and welcome to prediction on the Ireland Wales in the Viva Stadium. And there's a man joining me today, man on rugby, knows more about it now than I do because he's a Welshman. And there's no Welshman alive that doesn't know about rugby, I think, anyway. They're all very good, and the ladies as well. But John is here with me now today, and we're going to do a bit of a preview of the match on Saturday. So, the one thing I am a little bit worried about, John, is that Ireland are favourites for this match. And I think that is a bit of a help to use. You know what I mean?
Well, I think
what do you think of that, John?
I think that Ireland is slowly getting a bit more used to the favourites tag. And I think, especially after the last win against New Zealand, they're expecting going into it that, all right, we are going to be favourites when we go into home matches, especially at the Six Nations. Wales, everyone has written Wales off. That probably sits best with them, the players and the coaching staff as well. It also takes off a little bit of pressure from them. I would think that they're trying to put in a game plan, quite an aggressive game plan. And it's taking a while to bed in and get sorted. So I think having that pressure taken off them a little bit means that they could probably view this Six Nations as a bit more of a development tournament, whereas Ireland have to see this tournament as them proving that they've got what it takes now.
Yeah. I'm a bit worried about it, John, when Ireland are out-and-out favourites, because Wales, as you know, over the years, turned over Ireland a good few times, especially in World Cups. Now, I know this is not World Cup, but it doesn't matter. Wales are not coming over here for the crack. Well, they are. Then have a drink and all afterwards and meal and everything. But they're coming over here to win this match. And Wales are always very, very tough opposition. Now, everyone is tough opposition. There's no easy game in this, But anyway, I'm going to give a prediction on it. And my prediction is I'm going to go for an Ireland win. But I think it's going to be very, very tight. And they're going to get it very hard. It's not going to be easy. And it's not going to be a big margin. I think if they win by 3 points, it'd be great. Even a point to do me, What do you think, John?
I think that it's going to be a very interesting game. I think it's probably going to be very high scoring. I hope it will be anyway, because the Welsh back five are very attacking focused, but the defence isn't always there. And I'm hoping that I'm really hoping that Ireland are actually going to start the Ulster winger Robert Balakoon, who I saw play a few years ago at club level, and he was absolutely at amateur level, and he was absolutely amazing. I think if they start an attack-minded back three, maybe start Lowry over Hugo Keenan, I think we could end up having a really high-scoring match out of it. It's been 10 years since Wales have won in Dublin. I don't expect that to change this weekend. I would say that I think it's going to be an Ireland win by 10 points, maybe more. I think, though, even going into the last 60 minutes, hypothetically, if it was, say, Wales 24-25, Ireland 21, I would expect in the last 20 minutes for Ireland to pull away. I as much as it pains me to say it, I expect an Ireland win. I would also say, the other thing I would say I think is going to happen in this game is I think there's going to be a lot of niggle. It's very public that these two teams don't really care for each other very much. I think especially after last year's Six Nations match between them, there's a lot of frustration probably still there for Wales from Ireland. I would not be surprised to see, I'm expecting at least 2 yellow cards, one for each side. I wouldn't be shocked if there was a red. I think it's going to be a real brutal game.
Well, I'd agree with you there, John. They won't be sending anyone one another Christmas cards anyway. That's
no, not at all.
because the rugby players, the one great thing I will say about them, John, when the game is over, they all shake hands and they line up and all and congratulate one another, and they go for a drink. Now, I don't think the two teams go together. I'm not sure about that. But there is good camaraderie with them as well when the game is over. In fairness to them, that all these sportsmen, they're terrific because they absolutely murder one another out on the pitch. But when the game is over, then they forget about it. That's one great thing I find about them, But I always love looking at Ireland against Wales, Always a very good match. Now, there's another thing, John, I forgot to say to you, that you actually played rugby, you know what I mean? So you know the game inside out. And the one thing about it that I find when I'm sitting on my armchair looking at it, that the hits that's going in now are absolutely unbelievable. I remember Tommy Bowe, he used to play with Ireland. You'd remember him, John. And Tommy Bowe was interviewed on a programme on RTE after he finished playing. And he was talking about one day when he got a knock. And he said he was sitting on the pitch and they were out talking to him. And he actually thought that he was at home looking at the game on television. I couldn't believe it the way he said it, So it just shows you but John, you would know all about the hits. I wouldn't because I never played anything rugby or anything like that. The hits are absolutely unbelievable now. They say it's sort of like a car crash, don't they?
That is trotted out fairly regularly. That it's like being in a minor car crash, playing an international game. But no, I never played anywhere near to that level, obviously. Yeah. But even at lower leagues, it's pretty.
But you did
it's
play
pretty tough. Yeah, not a huge amount, and not in the last 10 years, thankfully. Yeah, I played sevens within the last 10 years, which is a very different game and a lot nicer if you don't want to be hit that hard. I expect this one on the weekend. I mean, every Six Nations match is absolutely physically brutal, but I think especially Wales, the Irish forwards are very big, very strong, very technical. But what the Welsh forwards have over them, I think, is that they are very abrasive. They're very aggressive players. And I think that's where the little bit of niggle comes into it as well. So I expect to see some borderline late hits coming in from both sides. And I don't expect Dan Biggar or Johnny Sexton to feel massively comfortable when they come off the pitch, whenever that may be. I think there's going to be a lot of. I mean, targeting the tens is obviously just a part of the modern game, more so than it was probably about 15, 20 years ago. But it's just these fixtures, the Wales-Ireland fixtures, are particularly. I don't want to say bad for it because it is part of the game, obviously, but the hits are later and later in Wales-Ireland matches. They always are. So,
yeah, and the sort to say as well, John, that Johnny Sexton sometimes he sort of delays the thing, which makes it even more. He's more vulnerable to getting hit, I think. Now maybe that's right, maybe it's not.
Oh yeah.
The other thing, John, I just wanted to say was that a few years ago, I went out to Carton before COVID started. I went out to Carton a few times to see Ireland training, and the lads and all, if you want a photograph taken with anyone, there's always a few people there to stand in with everyone. So I'd just like to say that the Irish players are absolute gentlemen, every one of them, when I was out there seeing them training. Now, that was a few years ago. I don't know if they're still training in Carton. I haven't been there now in the last while, so I don't know if they're still there. They probably are. It's just there outside. It's very near Maynooth.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone would say that some of the hits coming in, and like you say about Johnny Sexton, he does like a delayed pass, and that's very important in the Irish game plan because they're looking for a defence to just bite. obviously he doesn't want to get hit, but if someone's tackling Johnny Sexton, that's one less player in a defensive line. So if you can delay that pass and get it off, then that's part of their game plan. It does make it more likely he's going to get hit. I think he probably gets hit more than other fly halves for that reason. I think people like to say, "Oh, Johnny Sexton gets hit because he's Johnny Sexton." Johnny Sexton, in my mind anyway, gets hit a lot because he has a very particular playing style, which puts him on the front line a bit more than other tens.
The out half position, John. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, more vulnerable. Yeah. I think that the out half, John, is probably one of the worst positions for getting hit, isn't it? And the out halves, they're not really, like Johnny Sexton is fairly tall, but like when I was looking at him there, when I got the photograph taken with him, like his legs and all that are not that big. He's not really that heavy, you know what I mean? Now, I never seen Rowan O'Gara in reality, only on television, so it's hard to judge, know the difference. But like Johnny Sexton is some tough man, and so was Rowan O'Gara. All the out halves are. Well, all the rugby players are, because to be taking those belts, like, geez, you have to be super fit, John, to take them, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe say I don't think fly halves are one of the ones that get hit the most. What I think is a lot of times in rugby, you are taking an action that is putting your body in a vulnerable position. So that could be in the middle of a pass, it could be taking a kick, and in certain positions, like you might be taking a moment to evaluate what's in front of you, and you might not be fully braced or prepared for it. Whereas like a back row or a lock, they're getting hit way more, but they're often braced. They know it's coming. So the hits can be worse in a way for those for certain positions, like scrum half or out half. But like, I think, they're not massive players. And now, if you want to see a real massive out half, you go and look at Duncan Weir. Like, he's ready to take any hit that you can level at him. But it's definitely not the norm.
Yeah, and the other, so you're able to. The other thing, John, that you understand much better than me is in the actual scrum, the front row and the second row and all that, and all the stuff that's going on. Like, there's some stuff going on in the front rows, like with your two prop forwards, tight head prop, loose head prop, and then you have the hooker in the middle.
Yeah,
geez, when they come together, there's a fierce smack all together, isn't there?
I would never.
Going like.
I know I would never pretend to tell you that I know what a front row is doing. I think you have to be a proper hooker to know exactly what goes on in there. I was pretty happy just to be at the back or on the sides. Like, I didn't, I had no interest in ever seeing what happened in there. I did it in sevens a couple times, but playing a front row in sevens is a completely different thing. I wouldn't Now, that said, though, there is an interesting law change that's being trialled in the Six Nations. There's an issue in the front row which is called axial loading, and what that means is often you'll see when the sides are crouching down and getting ready to engage, you'll see that the front rows have already put their feet back behind them, and they're actually resting their heads on each other. They're putting that pressure on. And that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on a hooker's neck. There's a law being trialled now where they're saying they want the hooker to have what's called a break foot to go in front. And that's just so to stop the sides getting a huge collision at the very start. It's unclear how that's going to affect the scrums. I would expect, especially this weekend, we could see a lot of scrum penalties. And potentially collapsing scrums because teams haven't been in game environments to test out this new law. So that's something to keep your eye on in the scrum. That's the only thing I know that's going on in the scrum right now. So that's
Yeah.
I give you that. But that's something to keep an eye out for. If there's a lot of scrum
Right.
penalties or if there's a
At
lot of
least
collapse scrums, that's
you know a
probably the
little
reason
bit
why.
more than I do anyway, John. You know a little bit more than I do anyway. But the other thing, John, I just thought of it there before I came on today to do this. That I remember one time now, John, you won't remember this because it's going way back. It's 1969 and Ireland were playing for the Triple Crown. And I think Wales were going for it as well. And it was Wales and Ireland, and it was in Cardiff, Cardiff Arms Park. And oh, jeez, it was a fierce battle altogether. But Wales won. And like, as you know yourself, John, Ireland got a few championships there a while ago. But you know what I mean? They're far and few between. Now, it was great to get them, you know what I mean? Because they waited from, I think it was 1949, I'm not exactly sure. Jamie Heaslip and all that was on the winning team. I remember they went over and they won it against Wales in Cardiff Arms Park. What you call him, threw the ball out to, and he put it over the bar. And then he was in a ruck or something, and he put his hand out on the ball. Now, I don't understand the rules, John, Ron O'Gara, and it was a penalty. And Wales got the penalty, and like it looked to be going over. We thought we were beaten, and the next thing I think it just tailed off, and Ireland won it. So that and tell you how close the match was, and that was Ireland winning the Grand Slam that time, you know. Yeah. So I think it was 2009.
I think that was 2009 as well. Yeah.
But it just,
yeah.
So.
Well, I don't expect this one to be such a nitty-gritty, tight-knit thing. I think this is going to be, fingers crossed, a lot of free flow in attack in rugby. I expect Ireland to look like the finished article, to be honest. And I expect there to be flashes of very good play from Wales, but I doubt that they have I doubt they're going to be able to string it together as well as Ireland will, and I just think Ireland are going to pull away at some point. And I'd love to be proved wrong, but that's what I think is likely to happen.
Oh yeah, of course. You have to. Yeah, you have to go for your own team. You're right. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens anyway, John. Hopefully, it's a good entertaining match. I'd say it'd be, as far as I know, anyway, it'd be capacity crowd, wouldn't it? Because I think the venues are able to have up, so they'll be delighted with that. And well, any time there's an international, and if the crowd can get in, it's always packed. You know, I never seen an international that it wasn't the grounds weren't full. You know, any of those matches, there's to have all the audience to go in and look at it. You know, the love it.
Well, I'll be in a pub somewhere in North Dublin, in full kit, so I'll be easy to pick out.
I'm just going to go for a very, very narrow Ireland win. I think if they win by 3 points, even if they only won by a point, I'd be happy. I'd take it, because any day you beat Wales, for me, is a good day, because they're a very, very hard side. Even though Ireland are favourites, I don't really take much notice of that, because like it's what's going to happen out in the field. You are favourites. You still have to go out there and get the tries, get the scores, and keep on top of Wales. And I'll tell you one thing, Wales are not coming over here for the crack. Well, they are coming over for the crack, but they're going to try and win the game, and then they'll go out and have a drink and a meal or whatever. But they are coming to win this. Do you want to say something now, John, and then I can close it off? Or will
I think that I think first half Ireland will probably take out a little bit of a lead, as they normally do. I expect Wales to come back in the sort of third quarter, from 40 minutes to 60. But then I think Ireland will just power it in the end. Like that's just a rhythm that Ireland seem to have in games: is get out to an early lead, another team keeps themselves in it, Ireland will score right before half time, as they normally do, and then third quarter, they always seem to just ease off for some reason. That's when Wales will have a chance to get back into the game. But if Ireland are within 10 points going into 60 minutes, I fully expect them to win. I expect Ireland to come out with probably a 10-point win this one. And I expect it to be a bonus point win as well. I expect them to score at least 4 tries in this game.
Well, I always think, John, in any game, that one team gets on top, and they're on top, what I call for a spell of maybe 20 minutes, maybe 25, maybe 30 minutes. And then the other team comes in and they have a spell. Now, sometimes matches don't work like that, but a lot of the time I think it does work like that. And no one really knows how that happens, you know what I mean? Or whether the team gets a bit tired or what. But they are all very, very fit men now, and they've all the right diets and everything, But it's so hard to predict. You just can't. That's what makes sport so good, and that's why we all love looking at it, either in the pub or at home or at the match,
Very true.
So I'd just like to say now, thanks very much for listening. And I'd say John White and myself, I'd like to thank you for looking at this video. And goodbye, and we'll hopefully see you again for the next one. Bye.